Good evening, dear traveler of the twilight hours. Welcome to this gentle journey through the ancient groves where the world trees grow, where cosmic pillars rise from the depths of primordial waters to pierce the vault of heaven itself. Tonight, we embark upon a long and winding path together, a 3-hour odyssey through the sacred forests of human imagination, where every culture has planted its own tree of life, its own axis upon which the universe slowly, eternally turns. I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from tonight. Perhaps you're nestled beneath blankets in a city apartment where the only trees visible are those glimpsed between buildings. Or maybe you're in a countryside home where actual trees whisper against your windows. Wherever you are, know that you're joining a timeless tradition of nighttime storytelling, where myths were passed down not in bright daylight, but in the soft darkness that invites dreams. Here on Boring Mythology, we honor that ancient practice, speaking these old stories in the way they were meant to be told, slowly, gently, as companions to your journey into sleep. The air around you now begins to shimmer with possibility, as if the very molecules themselves remember a time when trees were more than wood and leaf, when they were the living architecture of reality itself. Close your eyes if you haven't already, and let your breathing deepen, settling into the rhythm of wind through ancient branches. Tonight's journey will carry us through 7 sacred groves, 7 variations of the same eternal truth that cultures across our world have discovered independently. That at the center of everything stands a tree, a pillar, a connection between what is above and what is below. Feel now how the ordinary world begins to fade, replaced by something older, something that existed before the first city was built, before the first field was plowed. You're entering the realm of mythic time, where a single tree can contain 9 entire worlds, where its roots drink from wells of wisdom and fate, where its branches shelter eagles that see everything that was, is, and shall be. This is the realm of Yggdrasil, the world ash of Norse mythology, whose mighty trunk serves as the cosmic axis around which all of existence revolves. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let the journey unfold naturally, like bark slowly forming on ancient wood. Imagine walking now through a primordial forest, your feet silent on a carpet of moss that has been growing undisturbed since the beginning of time. The air is thick with mist that seems almost alive, swirling around massive trunks that disappear into darkness above and below. These are not ordinary trees. You can feel it in the way they seem to breathe, in the way their presence presses against your consciousness, like the memory of a dream you can't quite recall. Each tree you pass whispers of different mysteries, different worlds, different ways of understanding the architecture of existence. To your left, barely visible through the pearl-gray mist, stands a tree whose trunk seems to be made of silver starlight, its roots extending down into waters so dark they might be the void itself. This is Yggdrasil, though we will come to know it more intimately soon. Its branches stretch upward into 9 distinct layers of reality, each one a complete world with its own inhabitants, its own stories, its own relationship to the great tree that supports them all. From where you stand, you can almost hear the sound of the 3 Norns at its base, spinning the threads of fate for gods and humans alike. Their voices like water over stone, endless and patient. Moving deeper into this forest of forests, you encounter another presence, Another tree that seems to exist in its own bubble of reality. This one rises from a foundation of 4 directions, its trunk the color of jade and turquoise, decorated with symbols that shift and change when you're not looking directly at them. This is the Ceiba, the sacred tree of the Maya, whose roots penetrate the 9 levels of Xibalba, the underworld, while its branches support the 13 levels of heaven. Quetzal birds nest in its highest branches, their feathers containing all the colors that exist and some that don't, while at its base, the cosmic crocodile Itzamkab-Ain rests, its body forming the earth itself. The mist parts again, and now you see a tree that seems to be made entirely of golden light, its leaves whispering Sanskrit mantras that you somehow understand without knowing the language. This is the Ashwatha, the sacred fig tree of Hindu tradition, growing upside down with its roots in heaven and its branches extending downward to earth. Each leaf contains a different universe, each branch a different path of existence, and seated beneath it in eternal meditation is the cosmic consciousness itself, experiencing every possible reality simultaneously through this one perfect tree. As you continue walking through this impossible forest, where all mythologies exist at once, where all world trees grow in the same sacred grove, despite being separated by continents and millennia in the waking world, you notice a pillar that might be a tree or might be something else entirely. This is Irminsul, the great pillar of the Germanic peoples, destroyed by Charlemagne in the physical world, but eternal in the realm of myth. It stands perfectly straight, connecting the underworld to Middle Earth, to the realm of the gods, a cosmic axis so fundamental that its destruction was seen as the end of an entire worldview, an entire way of being in relationship with the sacred. Further still, through mist that now glows with the soft light of dawn despite the eternal twilight of this place, you glimpse a tree whose trunk seems to be made of pure sunlight crystallized into wood. This is Fusang, the Chinese cosmic tree from which the 10 suns once rose each day, before 9 were shot down by the divine archer Ho Yi, leaving only 1 to light our world. Its branches still remember the weight of those multiple suns, still bear the marks where divine birds carried daylight across the sky. And at its base, the waters of immortality still bubble up from springs that have never known drought. And there, almost hidden in shadows that seem deeper than the others, stands a tree that shamans have climbed since before history began, a tree that exists in Siberia and in the spirit world simultaneously. This is not one tree but many, not one tradition but dozens, all understanding that to be a bridge between worlds, one must become like a tree, rooted in the earth, reaching toward heaven, standing at the center of all directions. The shamanic world tree is perhaps the oldest of all, the first understanding that consciousness itself has a structure, and that structure is arboreal, branching, reaching, connecting. These 7 sacred trees, these 7 variations on the single theme of cosmic connection, will be our companions through this long night's journey. We will sit beneath each one, learning its particular mysteries, understanding its unique way of mapping the universe, feeling how each culture has discovered the same fundamental truth expressed in different leaves, different bark, different roots reaching into different underworlds. But they all share this. They all understand that reality requires a center, a connection, a living bridge between what is above and what is below, what is within and what is without. The forest around you now seems to pulse with a slow, deep rhythm, like the heartbeat of the earth itself, like the breathing of something so large that mountains are merely the rise and fall of its chest. This is the rhythm we will follow tonight, this slow pulse that connects all things, that moves through the cosmic trees like sap, carrying nutrients from the depths to the heights and back again in an eternal circulation that keeps the universe alive and growing. The mist begins to clear around one particular tree, and you find yourself drawn toward it as if by invisible threads, as if you've always been walking toward this moment, this encounter with the world tree of the north. First, the roots become visible, massive beyond comprehension, each one the size of rivers, disappearing into depths that your eyes cannot follow. These roots, 3 in number, each drink from different wells, different sources of cosmic power that feed the great ash tree that holds all 9 worlds in its embrace. Then the trunk rises before you, its bark rough with the texture of ages, marked with runes that weren't carved, but simply appeared, as if the tree itself learned to write in order to record the history of everything that has ever happened within its sphere of influence. The trunk is so vast that if you began walking around it now, it would take days to return to where you started. And that's assuming the tree remained the same size during your journey, which in the realm of myth, nothing ever does. You place your hand against the bark, and immediately you feel it. The vibration of 9 different worlds existing simultaneously, stacked upon each other like geological layers, yet each one infinite in its own right. Through your palm, you can feel Asgard high above, where the Aesir gods feast in golden halls, where Odin sits upon his high seat and sees everything that transpires in all the worlds below. You can feel the rainbow bridge Bifrost humming with the energy of divine travel, connecting Asgard to Midgard, our Middle Earth, where humans live out their brief lives beneath the shelter of the great tree's spreading branches. The texture beneath your hand shifts, and now you're feeling Vanaheim, home of the Vanir gods, those deities of fertility and wisdom who fought the Aesir to a standstill in the First War, then exchanged hostages and became one pantheon with 2 hearts. Vanaheim's essence is different from Asgard's, earthier, older, more connected to the cycles of growth and decay that keep the worlds in balance. The Vanir understand secrets that the Aesir have forgotten, or perhaps never knew. Secrets about the deep magic that existed before the cosmos took its current form. Your consciousness drifts deeper, following the pathways within the wood, and encounters Alfheim, where the light elves dwell in radiance that would blind mortal eyes. These beings are so beautiful that looking upon them is like trying to stare directly at the sun, yet here, feeling them through the tree rather than seeing them, you can appreciate their nature without being overwhelmed. They tend to things that grow, to the force of life itself as it pushes up through soil, spreads leaves toward light, creates beauty for no reason other than beauty's own sake. Below Alfheim, or perhaps beside it, direction works differently in the architecture of Yggdrasil. Lies Svartalfheim, the domain of the dwarves, those master craftsmen who forge the tools of gods. In their deep halls, lit by forge fire and gemlight, they create objects of such power that they shape the fate of all 9 worlds. Thor's hammer Mjolnir was born in these smithies, as was Odin's spear Gungnir, and the golden ring Draupnir, from which 8 identical rings drop every 9th night, creating infinite wealth from a single perfect form. The wood grows warmer beneath your touch as you sense Muspelheim, the realm of fire where Surtur waits with his flaming sword, patient as only an entity who knows his destiny can be patient. Muspelheim existed before the tree, before the gods, before anything except perhaps Niflheim, its opposite. From the meeting of Muspelheim's fire and Niflheim's ice came the first life, the giant Ymir, from whose body the worlds were made. And to fire everything will return when Surtur finally marches forth at Ragnarok, when his sword cuts through the roots of Yggdrasil itself, and the old cosmos dies to make way for the new. Feel now how the temperature drops, how frost forms beneath your fingers, as your awareness touches Jotunheim, the land of giants, those ancient enemies and occasional lovers of the gods. The giants are older than the gods, older perhaps than anything except the primal forces of fire and ice. They remember when the cosmos was different, when different rules applied, and they resent the current order that pushes them to the margins, to the wild places beyond the walls that the gods have built. Yet, without the giants, the gods would have no one to test themselves against, no other to define themselves in opposition to. No source of both threat and wisdom from outside their perfect realm. Deeper still, down among the roots now, you feel Helheim, the realm of the dead who didn't die gloriously in battle, the quiet dead who simply lived and then stopped living. Hel herself rules here, half living, half corpse, daughter of Loki and sister to the wolf and the serpent. Her realm is not a place of punishment, but simply a place of ending, where stories conclude without fanfare, where the vast majority of all beings eventually find themselves. It's peaceful in its way, this realm of quiet death, though cold beyond what living flesh can endure. And finally, in the depths where even the roots struggle to penetrate, lies Niflheim, the world of mist and ice that existed before existence properly began. Here is the spring Vergelmir, from which all rivers flow, where the dragon Nidhogg gnaws at the roots of the world tree, slowly, patiently undermining the structure of reality itself. This is necessary work, this destruction, for without it, the tree would grow beyond all bounds, would become something static and eternal rather than something living and changing. These 9 worlds don't merely exist. They interact, they influence each other, they maintain a balance that keeps the cosmos functional. The gods travel between them, sometimes openly, sometimes in disguise. Heroes journey from Midgard to other realms on quests that define not just their own fates, but the fates of kingdoms. Dragons and eagles carry messages between the roots and crown of the tree, maintaining communication across distances that can't be measured in any unit humans have devised. And through it all, Yggdrasil endures, battered by the stag that feed on its leaves, gnawed by the dragon at its roots, yet always growing, always green, always maintaining the structure that allows these 9 distinct realities to exist in relationship with each other. The tree doesn't merely support the worlds. It is the relationship between them, the living connection that allows gods to be gods, giants to be giants, humans to be humans, each in their proper place, yet all part of a single system. The Norns tend to the tree, these 3 sisters who embody past, present, and future, or perhaps birth, life, and death, or perhaps simply the threefold nature of time itself. Each day they draw water from the well of Urd and pour it over Yggdrasil's roots, mixed with the white clay that surrounds the well. This mixture heals the damage done by those who feed on the tree, keeps the bark from rotting, maintains the eternal youth of something that was ancient before the gods were born. The Norns know every fate, have carved every life's trajectory into the wood of the tree, yet they themselves seem bound by these same fates they proclaim, servants of a pattern larger than even they can fully comprehend. At the tree's crown sits an eagle, wise beyond measure, who watches all the worlds spread below. Between the eagle's eyes perches a hawk, watching what even the eagle might miss. These birds see everything, every heroic deed, every betrayal, every small kindness and petty cruelty that shapes the ongoing story of the 9 worlds. They remember everything too, for memory is crucial in a cosmos where prophecy and history are equally real, where what will happen is as certain as what has happened, where the end is known from the beginning. The dragon Nidhogg sends messages up to the eagle through Ratatoska, the squirrel who runs up and down the trunk, carrying insults between the heights and depths. This might seem trivial, a cosmic joke, but consider, without this messenger, without this communication between the destroyer at the roots and the watcher at the crown, the tree would split into separate parts, would lose its unity. Even conflict, even the trading of insults, maintains connection. Even enmity is a form of relationship. As your hand still rests against Yggdrasil's bark, you begin to understand something profound about the nature of reality as the Norse conceived it. Everything is connected, but connection doesn't mean harmony. The tree is constantly under attack, constantly being consumed, constantly dying, yet it endures through constant renewal, constant growth, constant adaptation. It's not a static pillar holding up static worlds, but a living system in constant flux, maintaining its essential structure through change, rather than despite it. The bark beneath your palm begins to shift, its texture flowing like water, like time itself becoming liquid. And you realize you're no longer touching just Yggdrasil, but something more universal, something that exists in every culture that has ever looked up at the sky and down at the earth and wondered what connects them. The air around you shimmers with heat mirages that resolve into different landscapes, different times, different peoples, all discovering the same fundamental truth, that the cosmos needs a center, an axis, a point around which everything else can orient itself. The tree transforms, or perhaps your perception transforms, and now you're standing in a clearing where the very concept of center has taken physical form. This is Axis Mundi, the world axis, the cosmic center that every culture has recognized in its own way. It might be a tree, might be a mountain, might be a pillar or a ladder or a rainbow or a rope hanging from heaven, but it's always the same thing. The connection between levels of reality, the pathway between human and divine, the still point around which everything turns. In the desert of the ancient Near East, you see it as a date palm, its fronds creating shade in a land where shade is life itself, its fruit providing sustenance, its trunk a ladder that shamans and prophets climb in their visions to reach the throne room of heaven. The Mesopotamians knew it as the Hulupu tree, planted at the beginning of time, housing the serpent that knows all secrets in its roots, the Anzu bird that sees all futures in its crown and in its trunk, the dark maid Lilith, representing all that is wild and untamed in the feminine divine. Travel north, and the axis becomes Mount Meru, the golden mountain at the center of Buddhist and Hindu cosmology, its peak piercing through all the layers of heaven, while its base extends through all the layers of hell. This mountain is impossibly tall. It would take millions of years to climb it by conventional means. Yet, in meditation, consciousness can reach its summit in an instant. Around it orbit the sun and moon, the planets and stars, all of creation spinning like a vast mandala with this cosmic mountain as its still center. The axis shifts again, and you're in ancient Greece, where Mount Olympus serves this function. Its peak, hidden in clouds that are not quite clouds. Its summit existing partially in our world, and partially in the realm of gods. The Greeks understood that the axis mundi didn't have to be climbed physically. It could be accessed through ritual, through mystery religions, through the ecstatic dances that dissolved the boundaries between human and divine. Every temple was a miniature world mountain, every altar a reflection of that cosmic center where heaven and earth meet. Now you're in ancient Egypt, where the axis takes the form of the Djed pillar, the backbone of Osiris, the stability that allows the cosmos to maintain its structure after being dismembered and reformed. The Egyptians built their pyramids as artificial world mountains, their peaks aligned with stars, their internal passages designed to facilitate the pharaoh's journey along the world axis to join Ra in his solar boat. Each pyramid was both tomb and launchpad, both ending and beginning, both death and the transcendence of death. The landscape shimmers and reforms, and you're in Australia, where the axis mundi is the rainbow serpent's path between waterholes. Each waterhole a portal between the underworld of water and the middle world of land. The Aboriginal peoples know that the axis isn't always vertical. It can be horizontal, can be the song lines that crisscross the continent, each one a pathway of creation that maintains the world through being walked, through being sung. The axis here is not a thing but an activity, not a place but a practice. In Siberia, among the Evengan Buryat peoples, you see shamans climbing the world tree in their rituals. Their drums, the vehicle that allows their spirits to ascend and descend the axis at will. They know that the axis mundi exists inside each person as well as outside. The spine is a personal world tree. The chakras are worlds stacked along that tree, and consciousness can travel up and down this internal axis, just as gods and spirits travel the external one. The drum beat becomes the heartbeat of the cosmos, synchronizing inner and outer, allowing the shaman to be simultaneously here in the tent and there at the cosmic center. The variations continue to unfold before you like pages in an infinite book, each culture adding its own understanding to the universal pattern. In ancient Rome, the axis mundi was the mundus, a ritual pit that connected the world of the living with the world of the dead, opened only on certain days when the boundaries between worlds grew thin. The Romans understood that the axis didn't have to be tall. It could be deep, could be a hole rather than a pole, could connect through descent rather than ascent. Among the Lakota and other plains peoples of North America, the axis takes the form of the cottonwood tree used as the center pole in the sun dance, its trunk connecting the dancers to the sky world through their suffering and transcendence. Every year, a new tree is chosen, reminding us that the axis mundi is not one specific object, but a role that different objects can fulfill, a function that must be renewed through ritual and sacrifice to remain effective. In medieval Europe, the axis became the cross of Christ, particularly the true cross, which was said to have grown from a seed of the tree of life planted in Adam's mouth at his burial. This Christian axis mundi connected the fall in Eden with the redemption at Golgotha, linked the tree of forbidden fruit with the tree of salvation, united beginning and ending in a single vertical beam that pierced through time as well as space. Every church spire, every cathedral tower recreated this axis, pointing toward heaven while rooted in earth. The Dogon people of Mali know the axis as the granary of the supreme god Amma, a structure that descended from heaven containing all the seeds of creation, all the patterns that would unfold into the diversity of life. This granary axis spins as it descends, creating the spiral pattern that appears everywhere in nature, in galaxies and seashells, in DNA and whirlpools, in the horns of rams and the growth of plants. The axis here is not static, but dynamic, not straight, but spiral, teaching us that the connection between levels of reality can involve rotation, can be a drill rather than a ladder. The image of the spinning granary continues to turn in your mind's eye, slowly, hypnotically, each rotation revealing another facet of how humans have understood this cosmic connection. The axis mundi is never just a physical object. It's a principle, a way of organizing space and consciousness, a method for making the infinite cosmos manageable to finite human understanding. Feel how each culture's version carries the specific texture of its landscape, the specific quality of its light. Desert peoples find the axis in oases and date palms, understanding verticality through the rarity of shade and water. Mountain peoples find it in peaks that literally pierce the clouds, where the air grows thin and visions come easily. Forest peoples find it in the tallest trees, those ancient giants that were here before humans arrived and will be here after humans are gone. Each landscape teaches its own version of the same lesson. The axis mundi serves as a map, a cosmic GPS system that tells beings where they are in relation to everything else. If you know where the center is, you can never be truly lost. If you can see the axis, you know which way is up, which way is down, which way leads to the gods, and which way leads to the ancestors. This is why destroying another culture's axis mundi, cutting down their sacred tree, toppling their standing stone, forbidding access to their holy mountain, is such an act of violence. It doesn't just remove a physical object, it disorients an entire worldview. Yet the axis always returns, always regenerates. Cut down one sacred tree, and another grows or is recognized. Destroy one temple, and another is built or discovered. The need for a center, for a connection between levels of reality, seems hardwired into human consciousness. We cannot live in a centerless universe. We cannot navigate a reality without orientation. We need the axis, like we need north and south, up and down, in and out. Temperature shifts around you as you contemplate these truths. The cool of evening giving way to the deeper cold of midnight. Or perhaps it's the other way around. In the realm of myth, cause and effect don't always flow in the expected direction. What matters is that you're moving deeper into the story, deeper into the night, deeper into the understanding that connects all peoples across all times. The axis mundi whispers its secrets in languages you don't speak, but somehow understand. It tells you that every human spine is a world tree, that every breath is a journey up and down the cosmic axis, that sleeping and waking are movements between worlds connected by the axis of consciousness, that birth is an emergence from the lower world and death is an ascent to the upper world. Or perhaps it's the reverse. In the realm of the axis mundi, directions are relative to where you're standing. Standing. Yes, you're still standing in this forest of all forests, hands still touching bark that is every bark, feeling the pulse of every world tree that has ever been imagined. The texture beneath your palm shifts again, becomes smoother, warmer, and you know you're about to encounter another variation, another culture's understanding of the cosmic center. The Ceiba tree of the Maya is calling to you now, its presence growing stronger as the presence of other trees fades into the background hum of mythological possibility. The air grows heavy with moisture, thick with the breath of rainforest, and you find yourself in a different place entirely, though you haven't moved at all. This is the way of mythological travel. You journey by allowing the landscape to reform around you, by letting your consciousness adjust to different frequencies of sacred reality. The mist that was silver and cold becomes green and warm, full of life in a way that makes you aware of all the tiny organisms floating in every breath you take, all the microscopic stories playing out in what you thought was empty air. The Ceiba tree rises before you, and immediately you understand why the Maya chose this as their axis mundi. Its trunk is massive, yes, but more than that, it's shaped like a cosmic diagram. The base flares out in buttresses that look like the roots of mountains, like the foundations of reality itself spreading in the four cardinal directions. These buttresses don't just support the tree. They create spaces between them, triangular caves where spirits dwell, where shamans go to dream, where the boundaries between human and more than human grow thin as spider silk. Above the buttresses, the trunk rises smooth and straight, its bark a pale green-gray, like the color of jade weathered by centuries of rain. This is the path between worlds, the road that gods and spirits and the souls of the dead travel in their journeys between Xibalba below and the 13 levels of heaven above. The trunk is marked with thorns when the tree is young, but these fall away as it ages, as if the path between worlds becomes smoother with use, as if millions of traveling souls polish the way for those who come after. Look up, tilting your head back, further back, and still you cannot see where the crown begins. The Ceiba's branches spread horizontally once they finally emerge from the trunk, creating platforms in the sky, green worlds suspended in air, where whole ecosystems flourish without ever touching the ground. Bromeliads collect water in their cup-shaped leaves, creating aerial ponds where tree frogs breed, where insects lay eggs that hatch into larvae that pupate into adults that live their entire lives hundreds of feet above the earth, never knowing that ground exists. The Maya understood these levels, these platforms of branches, as the 13 heavens, each one with its own ruling deity, its own quality of light, its own relationship to time. In the lowest heaven, just above the earth, dwell the rain gods, the Chaks, whose blessing means life and whose absence means death in the seasonal drought of the Yucatan. You can hear them now in the distance, the rumble of thunder that might be their voices, or might be their footsteps as they dance to bring the rains. Above the Chak's realm, the heavens grow progressively more refined, more abstract, less concerned with the immediate needs of Earth, and more concerned with the vast patterns that guide the universe. There are heavens of wind, heavens of fire, heavens where time is woven like thread, heavens where mathematics takes physical form as crystalline structures too perfect for human eyes to fully comprehend. Each level is complete in itself, yet connected to all the others through the trunk of the Ceiba, through the central axis that allows communication and travel between these distinct realities. At the very crown of the tree, in the 13th heaven, dwells Itzamna, the creator deity who exists partially as iguana, partially as aged man, partially as concepts that don't translate into any human language. From this highest perch, Itzamna can see all the lower heavens, all the earth, all the underworld levels spread out like a vast map, like a codex written in dimensions rather than glyphs. The Ceiba's crown becomes Itzamna's throne, its highest branches his fingers reaching towards something even beyond the 13 heavens, toward the mystery that contains even the gods. But to understand the Ceiba properly, you must also descend. The Maya knew that the tree extends as far below the earth as above it. Its roots penetrate through the surface world into Xibalba, the place of fear, the place of tests, the underworld that is not hell, but something more complex, a necessary realm where death transforms into new life, where the hero twins journeyed to defeat the lords of death and make the world safe for humanity. Follow these roots down through soil that becomes increasingly rich with decay, with the bodies of everything that has ever lived returning to the source, becoming the food that feeds new growth. The roots pass through layers of limestone, through underground rivers that connect cenotes, those sacred wells that the Maya understood as portals to Xibalba, as eyes through which the underworld watches the middle world. In Xibalba, the Ceiba's roots become roads, become the white roads, the Sakpeob that the dead must travel in their journey through the underworld's trials. These roads are not straight, but wind like snakes, like rivers, like the neural pathways in a dreaming brain. At crossroads, the dead must choose their direction, and the roots of the Ceiba are there as guides, as reminders that even in the underworld, one remains connected to the world tree, remains part of the cosmic structure. The roots drink from underground rivers that flow with substances other than water, rivers of blood from sacrifices, rivers of chocolate from offerings, rivers of tears from mourners, rivers of dreams from sleepers. All these liquids rise through the Ceiba's trunk, transformed by their passage through the wood into the sap that feeds the leaves, that becomes the rain that falls back to earth, that enters the cenotes and returns to Xibalba in an endless cycle of circulation. But now something extraordinary happens. As you watch, the Ceiba begins to flower. This is not a common event. The tree blooms irregularly, unpredictably, as if responding to cosmic rhythms rather than earthly seasons. The flowers emerge from the bark itself, not just from the branches, covering the trunk in clusters of pale pink and white. Each flower a 5-petaled star that mirrors the 5 directions the Maya recognized: east, west, north, south, and center. The fragrance of these flowers is unlike anything in the ordinary world. It carries memories of every spring that has ever been, promises of every spring that will ever come. It speaks directly to parts of your brain that predate language, that remember when humans were just another animal in the forest, dependent on understanding which plants were medicine and which were poison. which flowers meant fruit would come, and which meant the rains were near. As the flowers open fully, they reveal their secrets. Each one contains a miniature universe, stamens and pistils arranged like solar systems, pollen that glimmers like stellar dust. The bats come now, the nocturnal pollinators, their leathery wings beating rhythms that synchronize with your heartbeat, with your breathing, with the slow pulse of tree sap moving through vessels in the trunk. These bats are messengers between the night world and the day world, between the conscious and unconscious, between what we know and what we only suspect. Watch as a bat approaches a flower, its long tongue extending to reach the nectar at the base of the petals. In that moment of contact, something passes between mammal and plant, something more than just the physical exchange of nectar for pollination services. The bat receives visions of the 13 heavens, glimpses of Xibalba's deepest mysteries, while the flower receives the bat's dreams of flight, its sonar map of the darkness, its knowledge of caves and night winds. This is the revelation at the heart of the Ceiba's mystery. It doesn't just connect the worlds vertically, it facilitates exchange, communication, transformation. Every creature that interacts with the tree becomes part of its network, part of its function as cosmic axis. The ants that farm aphids on its leaves, the orchids that grow on its branches, the jaguars that sharpen their claws on its bark, all become temporary participants in the tree's work of maintaining cosmic connection. The Maya shamans knew this. When they needed to travel between worlds, they didn't just climb the Ceiba in their visions, they became the Ceiba. They let their spine align with its trunk, their nervous system merge with its sap vessels. Their consciousness spread through its root and branch network. In ceremony, with the help of sacred substances derived from other teacher plants, they could feel themselves as tree, could experience reality from the Ceiba's perspective. Simultaneous existence in multiple worlds, continuous growth in all directions, patient endurance across centuries. The flowers begin to close now as dawn approaches somewhere beyond this eternal forest. Though time moves differently here, in circles and spirals rather than straight lines. As the petals fold inward, you see that each flower has been transformed by its night of opening. Some carry bat fur caught on their stamens. Others hold drops of dew that contain the reflected images of the 13 heavens. Still others have been marked by the feet of insects that walked across them, leaving trails that look like undeciphered glyphs, like messages in a script that won't be invented for another 1,000 years. These flowers will become pods, massive pods the size of human hands, filled with seeds wrapped in cotton-like fiber that the wind will carry to distant places, each seed a potential new world tree, a potential new axis mundi. But not every seed will grow into a cosmic center. Most will become ordinary trees, beautiful and useful, but not sacred, not charged with the task of holding the worlds together. Only certain trees, in certain places, at certain times, when recognized by certain people, become the axis. The potential is always there, but the actualization requires relationship, recognition, ritual. The Ceiba teaches patience through its growth pattern. It grows quickly at first, reaching for its place in the canopy, then slows once it achieves its height, focusing on girth, on presence, on becoming increasingly solid and undeniable in its role as cosmic pillar. A mature Ceiba can live for hundreds of years, watching civilizations rise and fall, maintaining the cosmic structure through conquest and revolution, through drought and flood, through the forgetting and remembering of sacred knowledge. Even when a Ceiba falls, through age or storm or human action, its work continues. The massive trunk becomes a nurse log, feeding thousands of other plants as it slowly decomposes. Its cavity becomes home to countless creatures. Its gradual merger with the forest floor teaches about the democracy of decay, how even world trees eventually return to soil, how even cosmic axes eventually dissolve back into the undifferentiated potential from which they arose. The Ceiba remembers. The Ceiba endures. The Ceiba waits. It waits for the next flowering, the next fruiting, the next generation of seeds. It waits for the next shaman to recognize its nature and merge consciousness with its vegetable wisdom. It waits for the next era when humans will again understand that some trees are more than trees, are living diagrams of cosmic structure, are the infrastructure that allows multiple realities to coexist without collapsing into each other. As you step back from the Ceiba, your hand finally leaving its bark, you carry something of its nature with you. Your spine feels straighter, more tree-like. Your awareness extends both higher and lower than before. You understand something now about patience, about growth, about the kind of strength that comes from being rooted in one world while reaching into others. The Ceiba has initiated you into its mystery, not through teaching, but through presence, through allowing you to feel what it feels, to know what it knows, to be what it is, if only for these moments in the eternal forest of myth. The tropical humidity of the Maya forest begins to transform, becoming the dry heat of the Indian subcontinent. And before you stands a tree that seems to exist in reverse, its logic inverted from everything you've encountered before. This is the Ashvatha, the sacred fig, the Ficus religiosa, also known as the Bodhi tree, though its significance predates the Buddha's enlightenment by millennia. The Hindus have always known this tree as special, as cosmic, as the very structure of reality made manifest in wood and leaf. What makes the Ashvatha unique among world trees is its orientation. It grows upside down, with its roots in heaven and its branches extending downward to earth. This isn't merely a poetic metaphor, but a fundamental statement about the nature of reality itself. The material world, our earth, is not the foundation, but the extension, not the source, but the manifestation. Everything grows downward from spirit into matter, from unity into multiplicity, from the eternal into the temporal. Stand beneath this inverted tree and look up at what should be its crown, but is instead its root system spreading across the heavens like neural networks made of light. These roots drink from the source of existence itself, from Brahman, the ultimate reality that exists beyond all categories and concepts. The nourishment they draw is not water or minerals, but consciousness itself, pure awareness that flows down through the trunk, dividing and subdividing as it descends through the branches, until it becomes the myriad forms of the physical world. Each leaf of the Ashvatha is a universe, trembling in the breeze of time, catching light that is both physical illumination and spiritual enlightenment. The Bhagavad Gita tells us that these leaves are the Vedic hymns, each one a sacred sound that helps maintain the cosmos through being chanted. When the wind moves through the tree, it creates a susurration that contains all possible mantras, all possible prayers, all possible songs of praise and petition that have ever been or could ever be offered. The trunk of the Ashvatha passes through all the lokas, the worlds or planes of existence recognized in Hindu cosmology. It connects the highest realm of Brahma, where creation is pure potential, through the middle realms where gods and demons play out their eternal conflicts, down to our earth, where humans struggle with Maya, the illusion that the physical world is the only reality. But the tree continues even below earth, into the Patalas, the lower worlds where Nagas, the serpent beings, guard treasures both material and spiritual. This cosmic fig tree demonstrates its inverted nature even in its biological behavior. The Ashvatha is a strangler fig, beginning its life not in soil but in the branches of another tree, sending roots downward that eventually reach the ground, thicken, merge, and ultimately replace the host tree entirely. This process mirrors the spiritual journey. Consciousness begins in the heights of spirit, descends through various levels of materiality, and eventually must find its grounding in earthly existence while maintaining its connection to its celestial source. The relationship between the Ashvatha and time is particularly complex. The tree exists in what the Hindus call the eternal now, the moment that contains all moments, yet it also participates in the cosmic cycles of creation and destruction. Every kalpa, every cosmic day of Brahma that lasts 4.32 billion years, the tree manifests anew. Every pralaya, every cosmic night when the universe dissolves back into undifferentiated potential, the tree withdraws into seed form, waiting to sprout again when Brahma wakes. Krishna, avatar of Vishnu, reveals himself as this cosmic tree in the Bhagavad Gita, telling Arjuna that among trees, he is the Ashvatha. This identification of divinity with the tree is not mere poetry, but recognition that the structure of consciousness itself is arboreal, branching, reaching, connecting, drawing nourishment from mysterious sources and transforming it into the visible world. When yogis meditate on the Ashvatha, they are meditating on the very pattern of existence, the template from which all reality unfolds. The tree's botanical peculiarities carry spiritual significance. Its heart-shaped leaves, with their distinctive drip tips, that allow monsoon rains to flow off without damaging the leaf, remind us that the heart must be shaped to let experiences flow through without being destroyed by them. The leaves' constant movement, trembling even in still air due to their long petioles, represents the constant vibration of existence, the primordial sound of Om that maintains the universe through its resonance. Consider the Buddha's choice to sit beneath this tree for his enlightenment. He could have chosen any tree, any place, but he chose the Ashvatha, the tree that already represented the structure of reality in the spiritual tradition he was born into. Beneath its branches that are really roots, its crown that is really foundation, he discovered the middle way, not rejecting the world tree's reality, but seeing through it to the emptiness that allows it to exist. The Ashvatha produces tiny flowers that are hidden within what appears to be its fruit. The fig is actually an inside-out flower cluster, a universe of reproduction hidden within what seems solid and singular. This botanical fact becomes spiritual teaching. What we take for fruit, for result, for achievement, contains within it the seeds of new becoming. Nothing is ever finished. Nothing ever arrives at final form. Every ending contains countless beginnings too small to see. In Ayurvedic medicine, every part of the Ashvatha is sacred and healing. Its bark treats diabetes and healing wounds. Its leaves help with skin diseases and fever. Its fruit aids digestion and fertility. The tree that represents the cosmos also heals the human body, reminding us that we are microcosms of the universal structure, that what heals the part heals the whole, that medicine and meditation are simply different approaches to aligning ourselves with the cosmic pattern. The tree's aerial roots, which descend from branches to become supplementary trunks, create grove temples where single trees become forests, where individual identity dissolves into collective existence. The great Ashvattha at Bodh Gaya, descendant of the original Buddha tree, has been sending out these aerial roots for over 2,000 years, creating a living cathedral where pilgrims come to sit and meditate, to feel themselves held within the architecture of enlightenment itself. Walk slowly around such an ancient Ashvattha, and you walk through different qualities of shade, different temperatures of air, different densities of silence. The tree creates microclimates of consciousness, pockets where meditation comes easier, where the veil between ordinary and transcendent awareness grows gossamer thin. Birds nest in these spaces, miners that chatter like thoughts, parrots that repeat sacred names, peacocks that display the thousand eyes of expanded awareness. The Ashvattha reminds us that growth can happen in any direction, that roots and branches are distinguished only by our perspective, that what seems upside down from one viewpoint is right side up from another. In the cosmic perspective of this inverted tree, our human struggles to rise, to achieve, to transcend might actually be movements of descent, of grounding, of finding our place in the great downward flow from spirit into matter. Time moves differently in the presence of the Ashvattha. Seconds stretch into centuries, centuries collapse into seconds. This is the tree's gift. It teaches us that linear time is just one way of organizing experience, that the eternal exists not after time, but within it, that every moment contains the whole story of the universe if we know how to read it. The trembling leaves count moments like prayer beads, each movement a marking of time. That is also a transcendence of time. As you stand beneath the Ashvattha, feeling its inverted energy field, your own energy begins to reorganize. The usual upward striving of human ambition reverses, becomes a gentle acceptance of the downward flow of grace. You understand that trying to climb to heaven might be missing the point. Heaven is already descending through you. You are already a branch of the cosmic tree, already participating in the great work of transformation from spirit to matter and back again. The Ashvattha doesn't demand worship, but invites participation. It doesn't teach through words, but through presence. Every person who has ever sat beneath its branches has become part of its story, has added their seeking to its expansion, their realization to its wisdom. The tree remembers them all. The Buddha achieving enlightenment, the countless unnamed seekers finding moments of clarity, the children playing in its shade, unaware they play in the architecture of cosmos itself. The light shifts from the golden warmth of India to the silver grey of northern European skies. And the tree before you transforms into something that might not be a tree at all, or might be the most essential tree. The tree reduced to its absolute minimum. A pillar, a post, a vertical statement that says simply, here is the center, here is where the worlds meet, here is the axis that must not fall. This is Irminsul, the great pillar of the Germanic peoples, the Saxons' understanding of what holds reality together. Unlike the elaborately described world trees of other traditions, Irminsul comes to us through fragments, through hints, through the absence left by its destruction. Charlemagne cut it down in 772 CA, understanding that to conquer a people, you must topple their cosmic axis, must disorient their spiritual geography, must leave them dizzy and lost in a universe suddenly without center. But Irminsul, like all true symbols, could not be destroyed by destroying its physical manifestation. It retreated into memory, into folk tale, into the patterns that Germanic peoples still traced in their art and their unconscious minds. It became perhaps more powerful as absence than it had been as presence, a phantom limb of the collective spiritual body that ached whenever the wind blew from certain directions, whenever the sky took on certain colors, whenever the old stories were told even in Christianized forms. What was Irminsul? The name itself gives clues. Great pillar in Old Saxon, but also possibly connected to the Hermiones, one of the great tribal groups mentioned by Tacitus or to Irmin. A name for the god of war and sky who might be Tyr, or might be an aspect of Odin, or might be someone else entirely, someone whose name and nature were lost when the pillar fell. The uncertainty is part of Irminsul's power. It represents not just what we know, but what we've forgotten, not just what was preserved, but what was destroyed in the conversion of Europe to Christianity. Stand before this phantom pillar and try to see it as the Saxons saw it. It rises from the earth not as something grown, but as something erected, something that required human participation to exist. This is crucial. While other world trees simply are, Irminsul had to be made, had to be chosen and carved and raised. It was both natural and cultural, both cosmic principle and human artifact, both discovery and creation. The pillar was described by Christian chroniclers as truncus quoque ligni non parvae magnitudinis, a trunk of wood of no small size, raised upright and worshipped in the open air. The understatement of no small size suggests something that impressed even hostile observers, something whose scale spoke of cosmic rather than merely human ambitions. This was not a totem pole telling the stories of a single clan, but a universal principle made manifest in Saxon oak or ash, or perhaps some other wood whose name we no longer know. The destruction of Irminsul took 3 days, which tells us something about its size and solidity. Charlemagne's soldiers had to work at it, had to systematically dismantle not just a symbol, but an entire worldview. The chronicles tell us that after its destruction, a miraculous spring appeared, providing water for the Christian army that had been suffering from drought. The pagans' cosmic pillar became the Christians' miraculous well, one vertical connection replaced by another, the axis mundi converted rather than truly destroyed. But what did Irminsul connect? The Germanic cosmos was layered like others, the underworld of the dead and the dwellers in the mounds, the middle earth of humans and visible creatures, the upper world of gods and heroes who had earned their place in the halls of the slain. But the Germanic understanding added something unique, the emphasis on word, the web of fate that connects all things not vertically, but horizontally, not through hierarchy, but through interweaving. Irminsul stood at the center of this web, like a spindle around which the threads of fate were wound. It didn't just connect the worlds vertically, but provided the central point from which all horizontal connections radiated. Every road that led to the pillar was a thread of word. Every person who came to worship or witness was a point where multiple threads converged. The pillar was both axis and anchor, both the vertical connection between worlds and the central stake that kept the web of fate properly tensioned. The rituals performed at Irminsul are largely lost to us, but we can infer from related traditions. There would have been offerings, certainly, weapons taken in battle, first fruits of harvest, perhaps the lives of captives or criminals at the most serious moments of cosmic crisis. The pillar would have been dressed differently for different seasons. Wreaths of spring flowers, harvest corn, winter evergreens. It would have been the site of assemblies where law was pronounced, where kings were acknowledged, where the people affirmed their connection not just to their gods, but to the cosmic order itself. Imagine standing before Irminsul on a winter night when the northern lights dance in the sky. The aurora borealis would have been seen as the pillar's true extent made visible, its extension into the realm of gods, flashing and rippling with colors that don't exist in the earthly spectrum. On such nights, the pillar would seem to pulse with the same rhythm as the lights, as if both were part of a single system, a cosmic circulation that the pillar both channeled and regulated. The sounds around Irminsul would have been carefully cultivated. No random noise, no casual conversation. The space around the pillar would have been acoustic as well as visual, defined by what could be heard as much as what could be seen. Horns would have been blown at specific times, dawn, noon, sunset, marking the passage of the sun around the cosmic axis. Drums would have maintained rhythms that synchronized human heartbeats with the deeper pulse of the earth. Chanted genealogies would have traced family lines back to the gods, each name a link in a chain that connected the human present to the mythic past. But Irminsul was not just about connection to the past. It was about maintaining the present and ensuring the future. The pillar had to be renewed, perhaps annually, perhaps every 7 or 9 years. New offerings would be added to old ones. New carvings would be added to the wood. New songs would be composed and sung. The pillar was not a monument to stasis, but to controlled change, to evolution within tradition, to the kind of continuity that requires constant attention and renewal. The Germanic peoples understood that the cosmos was not naturally stable, but required active maintenance. The gods themselves were not eternal, but were destined to fall at Ragnarok. The world tree Yggdrasil, which Irminsul echoed or perhaps supported, was constantly under attack. Order was not the natural state, but an achievement, something wrested from chaos and maintained through effort. Irminsul stood as both symbol and tool of this maintenance, a cosmic maintenance station where the work of keeping the worlds properly aligned was performed. When Irminsul fell to Charlemagne's axes, the sound must have been tremendous, not just the crack of breaking wood, but the psychic snap of a worldview breaking, the terrible silence that follows when a constant background hum suddenly stops. The Saxons who witnessed or heard about this destruction must have expected immediate cosmic consequences. The sky to fall, the earth to open, the dead to rise. When none of these things happened, when the world continued. Despite the loss of its pillar, the crisis must have been as much philosophical as religious. Yet perhaps they understood something that the Christians who destroyed their pillar did not. That Irminsul was not unique, but archetypal, not singular, but reproducible. Every sacred tree in every Saxon grove was potentially Irminsul. Every properly erected pillar could serve the cosmic function. The principle was indestructible, even if its manifestations were vulnerable. The Saxons continued to erect pillars, though now they called them different names, gave them Christian meanings, topped them with crosses instead of solar wheels or divine faces. Even today, in the folk traditions of Northern Europe, we find echoes of Irminsul. The maypole erected in spring, the Christmas tree brought indoors in winter, the carved pillars that still mark special places in the landscape, all carry forward the understanding that human communities need vertical markers, need access points, need physical reminders of the connection between earth and sky. The cosmic function of Irminsul continues even if its name is forgotten, even if its specific rituals are lost. The absence of Irminsul teaches us something that its presence might not have, that the axis mundi exists primarily in human consciousness and only secondarily in physical form. The pillar can be destroyed, but the need for a pillar cannot. The center can be displaced, but the desire for a center cannot. We are beings who require orientation, who cannot navigate a centerless universe, who will erect new pillars whenever old ones fall. As you contemplate this absent presence, this destroyed pillar that still stands in memory and myth, you feel your own internal axis strengthening. Your spine becomes your personal Irminsul, connecting the earth beneath your feet to the sky above your head. You understand that every standing human is a world pillar. Every moment of conscious uprightness is an act of cosmic maintenance. Every choice to remain vertical in a world that pulls toward horizontal is a ritual of renewal. The silver northern light warms to gold tinged with red, and the phantom pillar dissolves into something more elaborate, more celestial, more concerned with the mechanics of how heaven's fire reaches earth. You stand now before Fusang, the Chinese cosmic tree from whose branches the sun rises, in whose crown 10 suns once nested like divine birds, waiting for their turn to cross the sky. This is a tree of the Far East, growing on an island in the Eastern Sea where the water boils from the heat of so many suns, where the air shimmers with possibilities that existed before the current order of things, when multiple suns could shine simultaneously, when day and night were not yet regulated into their predictable pattern. Fusang remembers that time, holds it in its heartwood, in the grain of its timber that spirals like the paths the suns once took across a sky that could accommodate more than one fire at a time. The tree itself defies botanical classification. Its wood is said to be red as cinnabar, that mercury sulfide that Chinese alchemists used in their quest for immortality, understanding that the tree of suns must be composed of something that bridges the mineral and vegetable kingdoms, something that is both living wood and crystallized fire. Its leaves are like mulberry, but larger, each one a solar panel that doesn't just collect light, but generates it, glowing with a soft phosphorescence that makes the tree visible even in the darkness that existed before the first sun began its journey. Fusang grows from roots that extend down into the dragon palace beneath the sea, where Ao Guang, the dragon king of the east, maintains the machinery of tides and storms. The dragons who swim through these submarine routes carry messages between the solar fires above and the water element below, creating the steam that becomes clouds, the clouds that become rain, the rain that allows life to exist in the balance between fire and water. Without Fusang to mediate between these extremes, the world would either burn or drown. The 10 sons were the children of Dijun, the emperor of heaven, and Sihe, the sun mother who drove the chariot that carried each sun across the sky in turn. Every morning, one son would bathe in the Xian pool at Fusang's base, washing off the soot and exhaustion of the previous day's journey, renewing its fire in waters that somehow fed rather than extinguished celestial flame. Then it would climb the tree, branch by branch, each level representing another hour of the morning, until it reached the launching point from which it would leap into its chariot for the day's journey. For countless ages, this system worked perfectly. The sons took turns, each one resting for 9 days while its siblings carried the light. The tree regulated their schedule, wouldn't allow more than one to climb to the launching branch at a time. Fusang was not just their roost, but their teacher, instructing them in the responsibility of being a sun. The careful balance required to warm without burning, to illuminate without blinding, to maintain the rhythm that life depends upon. But then came the day when the 10 sons grew bored with their routine, tired of the endless regularity, the predictable pattern. They decided to rise together, all 10 at once, to see what would happen if the world received 10 times the normal amount of light and heat. They climbed Fusang simultaneously, the tree groaning under the combined weight of so much solar force, its branches beginning to char from the unprecedented concentration of fire. When all 10 suns reached the crown and launched themselves into the sky together, the catastrophe was immediate. Rivers evaporated, forests burst into flame. The earth itself began to crack like pottery in a kiln that has grown too hot. Creatures fled to caves. Humans dug deep holes trying to escape the terrible heat. But there was nowhere to hide from 10 suns shining at once. The very air became difficult to breathe, superheated and dry, pulling moisture from lungs and leaving behind a burning that water couldn't quench. This is when Yi, the divine archer, was called upon to save the world. Standing at the western edge of the earth, as far from Fusang as possible, he drew his bow that was strung with dragon sinew and fitted arrows fletched with phoenix feathers. One by one, he shot down 9 of the 10 suns, each one falling like a meteor, leaving trails of fire across the sky that can still be seen on certain nights when the celestial memory is particularly strong. The 9 fallen suns crashed into the earth and became various things: deposits of gold and cinnabar, hot springs that bubble with thermal energy, volcanoes that occasionally release solar fire that has been trapped underground for millennia. But their true essence returned to Fusang, was absorbed back into the tree's heartwood where it remains, giving the tree its perpetual inner warmth, its ability to generate light even in darkness. The surviving sun, traumatized by witnessing the death of its siblings, now rises alone each day from Fusang's branches. But it remembers when it was one of 10, remembers the companionship of its brothers, remembers the terrible day when multiplicity became singularity. This memory makes the sun compassionate. It shines gently on the earth that once nearly died from too much light, carefully measuring its heat to give life without destroying it. Fusang itself was changed by this event. Where once it bore 10 suns, now it bears the memory of 10 suns, the ghost light of the 9 that fell. On certain mornings, especially in winter when the single sun is weak and far away, you can see these phantom suns still nestled in Fusang's branches, pale after images of what once was, reminders that the current order of things is not inevitable but chosen, maintained through restraint rather than abundance. The tree has become a teacher of moderation, of the danger of excess even in good things. Too much light destroys as surely as darkness. Too much divine presence overwhelms human capacity to receive it. The cosmic tree that once supported 10 suns now supports 1 sun and 9 memories, 1 reality and 9 possibilities, 1 present and 9 pasts that inform but don't determine the future. In Chinese alchemy, Fusang represents the perfect balance of yin and yang, water and fire, earth and heaven. Its roots in the Dragon Palace are pure yin, cold and wet and dark. Its crown where the sun launches is pure yang, hot and dry and bright. But in the trunk, in the middle section where humans can approach and touch, these extremes are balanced, creating the temperate zone where life flourishes. The alchemists understood that immortality wasn't found in pure yang or pure yin, but in their perfect mixture, the state that Fusang embodies in its vertical integration of opposites. The tree appears in art across centuries of Chinese civilization, painted on silk scrolls and carved into jade, cast in bronze and traced in garden designs. Each representation shows different details. Sometimes the 9 fallen suns are shown as golden crows lying at the tree's base. Sometimes the remaining sun has a 3-legged crow inside it, the special solar bird that exists only in celestial fire. Sometimes Fusang is shown with other mythical trees. Ruomu, where the suns set in the west. Janmu, that connects heaven and earth in the center of the world, creating a forest of cosmic trees that map different aspects of the same reality. The waters around Fusang's island are said to confer immortality, but not the static immortality of never changing. Instead, they grant the immortality of endless renewal, the ability to burn out like a setting sun and be reborn like a rising one, to die each night and resurrect each morning. This is the immortality that Fusang teaches, not the avoidance of death, but the embrace of cyclical renewal, the understanding that endings are also beginnings, that setting is preparation for rising. As you stand before Fusang in this eternal forest of world trees, you can feel the heat still radiating from its trunk, the warmth of 9 suns that no longer shine, but whose fire has been incorporated into the tree's very substance. The air around Fusang shimmers not with one reality, but with 10 potential realities, only one of which manifested while 9 remain in the realm of what could have been. Time moves differently near Fusang. Each moment contains the time it takes for a sun to climb from root to crown, the hours of morning compressed into heartbeats. You age and grow young simultaneously, experiencing the tree's diurnal rhythm as your own biological clock synchronizes with its solar schedule. Dawn and dusk happen inside you, the rising and setting of consciousness that marks the boundary between waking and sleeping, between conscious and unconscious, between the singular self and the multiple selves that exist in dreams. The tree whispers stories of the time before time was regular, when multiple suns meant multiple simultaneous days, when it was possible to be in yesterday, today, and tomorrow all at once. This wasn't chaos, but a different kind of order, one that our current linear minds can barely comprehend. Fusang remembers this multiplicitous time and holds space for its eventual return, for the age when humanity might be ready to experience more than one sun's worth of enlightenment simultaneously, as it was in the beginning, before the cosmos hardened into its current configuration. Before the separation of the worlds became fixed and impermeable, there were those who knew how to travel the tree. In Siberia, in that vast expanse where the earth's bones show through its thin skin of soil, where winter lasts 9 months and summer is a brief dream of green, the shamans have always known that the world tree is not one tree, but every tree that serves the function. Not a species, but a relationship. Not a thing, but a practice. The light around you becomes the strange, flat illumination of the Arctic, where the sun skims along the horizon for months without setting or never rises at all, where the aurora borealis provides the primary colors for half the year. This is the landscape where shamanism was born, or at least where it was first named, where the word shaman comes from the Evenki language, from Saman, one who knows, one who sees in the dark, one who climbs the tree. The Siberian shaman tree is often a larch or a birch, but it could be any tree that calls to a particular shaman, any tree that agrees to serve as the axis for their journeys. The tree must be prepared, must be asked, must be entered into relationship with through offerings and songs and the establishment of mutual recognition. The tree and the shaman become partners in the work of maintaining connection between the worlds, of carrying messages and medicines between the human community and the more than human powers. Watch now as the shaman prepares for the journey. First comes the purification, smoke of juniper or wild rosemary, the beating of the drum that is itself a tree transformed, its wooden frame covered with reindeer hide, becoming the vehicle that carries consciousness up and down the cosmic axis. The shaman's costume is put on piece by piece, each element a technology for traveling the tree. The headdress with its antlers or feathers that allow navigation in the upper worlds. The metal mirrors and bells that reflect and announce presence in the middle world. The fringe and ribbons that extend the shaman's senses into the lower world. The drum begins its rhythm, the steady beat that is heartbeat and hoofbeat and wing beat all at once. The shaman begins to move, slowly at first, feeling for the entrance to the tree, the place where ordinary consciousness can slip into the bark and begin traveling the vertical road. This entrance is not visible to ordinary sight. It exists in what the Siberians call the soft place, where the boundaries between realities are permeable, where the solid world reveals itself as mostly empty space vibrating at different frequencies. The shaman's spirit enters the tree through its roots, traveling first down into the lower world where the ancestors dwell, where the spirits of diseases can be negotiated with, where lost soul parts hide after trauma has fractured them away from the whole. This lower world is not hell, but the foundation, the place where things begin, where seeds germinate in darkness before pushing toward light. Here the shaman might meet the grandmother of the forest, the ancient one who knows all the healing plants, who teaches through dreams and visions, through the language older than words. Moving up through the trunk, the shaman passes through the middle world, our ordinary reality but seen from inside the tree, from the perspective of something that experiences years as humans experience days, that feels the seasons as humans feel breathing. From inside the tree, the shaman can see the energy patterns that connect all living things, the threads of relation and causation that are invisible from ordinary perspective. Illness shows as tangles in these threads, healing as their unknotting and proper alignment. Rising further, the shaman enters the upper world, the realm of celestial spirits, of the gods who control weather and fate, of the bird people who see vast patterns from their high perspective. Here the shaman might receive new songs, new healing techniques, new understanding of cosmic law. The upper world is bright but not blinding, vast but not empty, populated by beings of immense power who might help or harm depending on the shaman's preparation, intention, and existing relationships. But the Siberian understanding adds something crucial. The tree exists inside the shaman as well as outside. The spine is the personal world tree. The chakras or energy centers are the worlds along that tree. And the shamanic journey can be taken internally as well as externally. The drumbeat synchronizes the inner and outer trees, allows them to recognize each other as the same structure at different scales, permits travel along both simultaneously. The shaman tree remembers every journey taken along its roots, every shaman who has climbed its branches, every healing accomplished through its mediation. The tree becomes wiser with use, more powerful with age, more capable of facilitating difficult journeys as it gains experience. Old shaman trees are treasured, protected, visited by shamans from far away who come to learn from these experienced cosmic travelers. Some trees become so powerful that they no longer need a human shaman to activate them. They become autonomous healers, places where sick people can come to sleep against the trunk and receive healing dreams, where women hoping to conceive can tie ribbons to branches and receive the spirit of a child, where hunters can leave offerings and receive visions of where the game will be. These trees are dressed in cloth and ribbons, fed with milk and vodka, spoken to as elders, as teachers, as bridges between the human and more than human worlds. The Siberian peoples understand that the world tree is not eternal but cyclical, that it dies and is reborn like everything else. When a shaman tree falls, through age or storm or fire, its wood is salvaged for sacred purposes, drums, ritual objects, amulets. The tree continues its work in transformed state. The cosmic axis function transferred from vertical trunk to circular drum, from stationary pillar to portable technology. The shaman carries the tree, having internalized its structure through years of journey. In some traditions, the shaman must die and be reborn to fully understand the tree. They experience dismemberment by spirits, their bones cleaned and reassembled, their organs replaced with crystals or stones, their eyes exchanged for ones that can see in the spirit world. This death and resurrection happens on the tree, suspended between worlds, neither fully dead nor fully alive, existing in the liminal space where transformation is possible. The tree teaches the shaman about time, not linear time, but spiral time, seasonal time, the time where past and future meet in an eternal present that contains all possibilities. From the tree's perspective, every spring that ever was exists simultaneously with every spring that will ever be. The shaman learns to navigate this multiplicitous time, to find the moment where healing is possible, where the pattern of illness can be intercepted before it manifests, where the future can be changed by adjusting the past. As you stand before this shaman tree in the eternal forest, you see that it's decorated with thousands of ribbons, each one a prayer, a wish, a thank you from someone whose life was touched by the tree's medicine. The ribbons flutter in a wind that comes from no cardinal direction, but from the movement between worlds, the breath of spirits passing along the cosmic axis. Each ribbon carries a story, and together they create a textile of community memory, a fabric of healing that wraps the tree in human gratitude. The tree speaks, not in words but in the creaking of wood, the rustling of leaves, the deep groaning that comes from roots adjusting to frozen ground. It tells you that every person is a potential shaman, every spine a potential world tree, every consciousness capable of traveling the vertical road if properly prepared and initiated. The tree offers no easy transcendence but hard-won wisdom, no escape from the human condition but deeper engagement with it, no flight from the earth but deeper rooting that allows for higher reaching. As the night deepens around us, as your journey through these sacred groves continues, you carry with you the understanding that the world tree is not one but many, not fixed but fluid, not separate from you, but expressed through you. Your breath is the wind through its leaves. Your blood is the sap in its vessels. Your consciousness is the traveler on its roads. You are not observing the cosmic axis. You are participating in it, maintaining it through your attention, your intention, your willingness to see the sacred structure that holds the worlds together. Now, in the deepest part of the night, when ordinary consciousness has long since surrendered to the dreamlike flow of mythological time, all the trees you have encountered begin to reveal their secret unity. They stand in a circle around you, or perhaps you stand at their shared center, or perhaps there is no difference between center and circumference in this place where all world trees grow from the same invisible root system, where all cosmic axes are aspects of a single principle that transcends culture and geography and time. Feel how Yggdrasil's presence still pulses with the life of 9 worlds, each one a complete reality, each one necessary for the others to exist. The great ash tree maintains its eternal vigil, battered by the stags that feed on its leaves, gnawed by the dragon at its roots, yet always green, always growing, always providing the structure that allows gods and giants and humans and dwarves to exist in relationship rather than isolation. The tree that knows it will fall at Ragnarok continues to grow anyway, teaching us that meaning doesn't require permanence, that beauty doesn't require eternity, that something can be sacred and temporary simultaneously. The Norns continue their work at Yggdrasil's base, drawing water from the well of Urd, mixing it with white clay, pouring it over the roots in an endless circulation of renewal. Past, present, and future exist not as separate moments, but as aspects of a single temporal fabric that the tree wears like bark, like rings in its wood that record not just years, but entire ages of the world. Every fate carved into Yggdrasil's trunk is both destiny and choice, both determination and freedom, both the closing of possibilities and the opening of new ones previously unimaginable. Turn slightly, and the axis mundi variations shimmer into focus. All those different ways humans have understood the cosmic center. Mount Meru spinning at the heart of Buddhist and Hindu cosmology, its golden peak piercing through every level of existence. The pyramids of Egypt reaching toward stars, each one a launching pad for pharaonic consciousness. The Djed pillar of Osiris providing stability after dismemberment and reconstruction. The rainbow serpent's path between Australian waterholes teaching that the axis can be horizontal, can be walked and sung rather than climbed. Each variation adds its wisdom to the whole. The axis mundi is not one thing, but a principle that manifests differently depending on the landscape, the culture, the specific needs of the people who recognize and maintain it. Desert peoples find it in oases and rare trees. Mountain peoples find it in peaks that pierce clouds. Forest peoples find it in the tallest trees. Island peoples find it in the connection between ocean depths and sky heights. Each understanding is complete in itself, yet partial in the larger picture. Each one a facet of a jewel too complex for any single perspective to encompass. The Ceiba rises in your awareness, its buttressed base spreading in the 4 directions. Its trunk, the highway between Xibalba and the 13 heavens. You can still smell its flowers, that fragrance that speaks directly to pre-verbal consciousness, that carries messages between species, between kingdoms of life, between states of being. The Maya understanding that the tree facilitates exchange, not just connection, but transformation, resonates through all the other trees. They all share this function. They don't just link worlds, but allow communication, commerce, change between them. Feel how the Ceiba's presence interweaves with Yggdrasil's, how the 9 Norse worlds and the Maya's 13 heavens and 9 underworlds create a mathematics of sacred space that transcends arithmetic. These numbers are not quantities, but qualities, not measurements, but relationships, not facts, but functions that organize consciousness into manageable sections while maintaining the unity of the whole. The trees teach enumeration as meditation, counting as cosmic participation, number as numinous rather than numerical. The Ashvatha Hindu tree maintains its inverted presence, roots in heaven, branches reaching down to earth, reversing our usual understanding of growth and gravity. This teaching that consciousness descends from unity into multiplicity. That matter is the extension rather than the foundation of spirit, infiltrates the understanding of all the other trees. They all carry this secret, that what we see as solid is mostly space, that what we experience as matter is consciousness moving slowly, that the physical tree is just the visible portion of something that exists primarily in dimensions we can feel but not see. Observe how the Ashvatha's leaves continue their eternal trembling. Each movement a universe beginning and ending. Each flutter a cosmic cycle of creation and dissolution. This trembling spreads to the leaves of all the other trees, synchronizing into a rhythm that is the universe breathing, the cosmic pulse that maintains existence through vibration rather than stillness. The trees are not solid objects, but standing waves, patterns of energy that appear stable, but are actually in constant motion at scales we can barely perceive. Irminsul stands in its absence that is the presence, the phantom pillar that teaches about destruction and continuity, about how symbols survive the destruction of their physical manifestations. The Germanic understanding that the cosmic axis must be maintained through human effort, must be renewed and re-erected, must be chosen rather than merely accepted, spreads to all the other trees. They all require relationship, recognition, ritual to fulfill their cosmic function. A tree becomes a world tree not through its own properties alone, but through being seen, acknowledged, and engaged with as sacred. The space where Irminsul stood, that absent center that still organizes the spiritual geography of Northern Europe, teaches about the power of memory, about how what has been destroyed can be more powerful than what remains standing. All the world trees carry the potential for this absence, this transformation from physical presence to psychic organizing principle. They prepare us for loss by teaching that connection transcends physical proximity, that the axis mundi exists primarily in consciousness and only secondarily in wood and leaf. Fusang glows with its inner fire, the warmth of 9 suns that no longer shine, but whose essence has been incorporated into the tree's heartwood. The Chinese teaching about excess and moderation, about how too much light can destroy as surely as darkness, influences all the other trees. They all carry this thermostat function, this regulation of divine energy so that it reaches human consciousness in manageable amounts. The world trees are transformers in the electrical sense, stepping down the voltage of pure divinity to levels that human nervous systems can handle without burning out. The memory of 10 suns rising together, the catastrophe of unregulated divine presence, lives in all the trees now. They all know that their function includes protection as well as connection, that they must sometimes shield the worlds from each other, maintain boundaries as well as bridges. The cosmic axis is not an open highway, but a regulated passage, with the tree itself serving as customs agent, determining what can pass between worlds and in what quantities. The Siberian shaman trees, multiple and renewable, personal and universal, add their understanding that the world tree is a practice rather than an object, a relationship rather than a thing, a function that can be fulfilled by any tree that is properly approached and prepared. This democratization of the cosmic axis spreads to all the trees. They all become accessible, all become potential partners in the work of maintaining cosmic connection. Feel how your spine has become aligned with all these trees simultaneously, how your vertebrae stack like worlds along a cosmic axis, how your nervous system branches like roots below and branches above, carrying messages between the conscious and unconscious, between the voluntary and autonomic, between the individual and collective. You are a walking world tree, a mobile axis mundi, a portable connection between earth and sky that you carry with you wherever you go. The drumbeat that the Siberian shamans use to travel the tree resonates through all the trees now, a rhythm that synchronizes their different frequencies into a cosmic chord, a harmony that contains dissonance, a unity that preserves diversity. Each tree maintains its unique timbre, its particular note, while participating in a larger composition that none of them could produce alone. As you stand in this circle of world trees, or at their shared center, or both simultaneously, you begin to understand something profound about the nature of sacred reality. It's not that all religions are saying the same thing in different languages. Each tradition has its unique insights, its particular genius, its specific medicine, but they all recognize the same fundamental need for connection between levels of reality, for orientation in a vast and potentially overwhelming cosmos, for a center that holds even as everything spins. The trees begin to merge, not losing their distinctiveness, but revealing their underground connection, their root system that has always been one despite the appearance of separate trunks above ground. This is the rhizomic reality that mystics of all traditions have glimpsed, that separation is a surface phenomenon, that at sufficient depth, all roots intertwine, all trees share the same water table, all vertical aspirations draw from the same source. Watch as the trees begin to rotate around you, or perhaps you're rotating and they're standing still. In the realm of the axis mundi, there's no fixed reference point to determine absolute motion. Each tree shows you its different faces as it turns. The face it shows to its own culture, the face it shows to scholars and anthropologists, the face it shows to mystics and madmen, the face it shows to children who climb it unaware of its cosmic significance, the face it shows to the universe itself when no human is watching. The rotation increases, but instead of becoming dizzy, you become increasingly centered, increasingly aware of your own axis, your own still point around which all these mythologies revolve. You are not separate from these cosmic trees, but the consciousness that recognizes them, the awareness that allows them to fulfill their function. Without consciousness to perceive the connection between worlds, there would be no connection, just separate realities unaware of each other. Time begins to spiral around these rotating trees, past and future braiding together like DNA strands, like the caduceus serpents around Hermes' staff, like the kundalini rising up the spine. You see the first humans recognizing the first world tree, projecting their need for cosmic orientation onto a particularly impressive oak or ash or pine. You see the last humans, in some unimaginable future, still needing the axis mundi, still finding or creating cosmic centers even as they spread across stars, carrying the pattern with them like a genetic memory, like an archetypal necessity. The trees speak in unison now, their different voices creating a harmony that your ears cannot quite hear, but your bones feel. Your blood recognizes, your DNA remembers from when it was wound around itself like a spiral tree, like a molecular axis mundi connecting the chemical and the biological, the mineral and the living. They tell you the secret that they all share, that the universe itself is structured like a tree, branching and reaching, rooted and aspiring, dying and regenerating, always growing even as it always dies. The rotation of the trees begins to slow, like a great wheel that has expended its momentum, like the universe itself, beginning its long slide toward entropy, while still maintaining patterns of local complexity and beauty. The night, which has held us in its embrace for so long, begins to soften at its edges, though dawn is still a whisper rather than a declaration, a suggestion rather than an insistence, a possibility emerging from the darkness rather than conquering it. You have traveled far tonight, though you haven't moved at all. You have climbed world trees and descended to their roots, have witnessed the birth and death of suns, have felt the cosmic axis both outside and inside yourself, have understood that the architecture of consciousness itself is arboreal, branching, reaching, connecting levels of awareness that usually remain separate in ordinary waking life. The journey has changed you in ways you won't fully understand for days, weeks, perhaps years to come. The trees continue their slow revelation of unity within diversity. They're teaching that connection doesn't require sameness, that communication doesn't require common language, that the cosmos maintains its structure not through rigid hierarchy, but through flexible relationship. Each tree has shown you a different facet of the same jewel, a different angle on the same mystery, a different door into the same infinite room, where all possibilities exist simultaneously, waiting to be chosen into manifestation. Yggdrasil whispers of endings that are beginnings, of Ragnarok that is both destruction and renewal, of the serpent that gnaws the roots, being as necessary as the eagle that perches in the crown. The Norse tree teaches that conflict and cooperation are both forms of relationship, that even the forces of dissolution serve the larger pattern, that entropy and evolution are dance partners in the cosmic ballroom where time waltzes with eternity. The axis mundi variations remind you that every culture has found its own way to the same essential understanding, that humans cannot live in a centerless universe, cannot navigate without orientation, cannot find meaning without some sense of vertical dimension that transcends the horizontal expansions of ordinary life. Whether it's a mountain or a tree, a pillar or a pyramid, a rope or a rainbow, humans need something that connects earth to sky, need a ladder for consciousness to climb, even if the climbing happens in dreams and visions rather than physical space. The Ceiba continues its patient teaching about exchange and transformation, about how the cosmic tree doesn't just connect, but facilitates change, allows beings to become other than what they were, permits the kind of metamorphosis that turns caterpillars into butterflies, seeds into forests, humans into something more than human while remaining human. The tree as alchemical vessel, as cosmic laboratory where consciousness experiments with form, where matter discovers what it can become when properly arranged and energized. Feel the Ashvata's inverted wisdom spreading through your understanding like roots spreading through soil, finding nutrients in what seem like empty space, drawing sustenance from dimensions that materialist science hasn't yet learned to measure. The teaching that consciousness descends into matter rather than emerging from it, that complexity flows downward from unity rather than building upward from simplicity, reverses everything you thought you knew, while somehow confirming what you've always suspected. Irminsul's absence continues to presence itself, the destroyed pillar that stands more firmly in memory than it ever did in physical reality. This paradox of absence being a form of presence, of destruction being a form of preservation, spreads through all your understanding of loss and continuity. Everything you've ever lost is still present in the effects it had, the changes it created, the space it carved out in your consciousness that maintains its shape even when empty. Fusang glows with the warmth of possibilities that didn't manifest, the 9 suns that could have been but weren't, the alternate timelines where different choices were made, where the cosmic order arranged itself according to different principles. The tree holds all these unrealized potentials in its heartwood, keeping them warm in case they're ever needed. In case the single sun fails, and alternatives must be quickly brought online. The Siberian shaman trees continue their teaching that the cosmic axis is democratic, accessible, renewable, that every person carries the potential to become a bridge between worlds, that the shamanic function is not reserved for special individuals, but available to anyone willing to do the work, face the initiation, die, and be reborn in the space between heartbeats, where the tree reveals itself as both external reality and internal structure. All these teachings weave together now, like the ribbons tied to sacred trees, each one distinct, but all fluttering in the same wind, the breath that moves between worlds, the respiration of the cosmos itself as it breathes in and out, creating and dissolving, manifesting and withdrawing. You understand that you have been breathing with this cosmic rhythm all night, that your inhalations and exhalations have synchronized with something much larger, much older, much more patient than human consciousness usually allows. The forest of eternal trees begins to fade, not disappearing, but becoming transparent, allowing you to see through them to your ordinary room, your ordinary bed, your ordinary life that will never be quite ordinary again after this journey. The trees are still there, will always be there, but they're allowing consensus reality to reassert itself, allowing you to return to the horizontal world while maintaining your awareness of the vertical dimension they've revealed. But before you fully return, the trees offer one final teaching, one last gift that will help you integrate what you've experienced. They show you that every ordinary tree you encounter in your daily life carries the potential to be a world tree, carries the pattern even if it never manifests the function. Every time you see a tree, you can remember this night, can feel again the cosmic axis in your spine, can know yourself as connected to something vast and patient and eternally growing. The trees remind you that growth happens in darkness as much as light, in winter as much as summer, in sleep as much as waking. The journey you've taken tonight, while your body lays still and your conscious mind surrendered to the flow of story and image, has been a form of growth, a putting down of roots into mythological soil, a reaching of branches toward archetypal light. You have been growing even while sleeping, learning even while dreaming, traveling even while perfectly still. As the first suggestion of dawn touches the eastern sky, though you cannot see it directly, though it's more feeling than sight, more intuition than perception, the world trees begin their final transformation. They become transparent, then translucent, then invisible while remaining absolutely present. They have moved from outside to inside, from object to subject, from something you observe to something you are. Your spine is Yggdrasil. Your nervous system is the axis mundi. Your consciousness is the Keba's flowering. Your thoughts are the Ashwata's trembling leaves. Your memories are Irminsul's absent presence. Your potential is Fuzang's unmanifested suns. Your dreams are the shaman's journey up and down the cosmic tree. You don't have to climb the world tree because you are the world tree. Have always been, will always be. In this eternal now that contains all times and all possibilities. The stories you've heard tonight will continue working in you long after the words fade, like seeds planted in the darkness of your unconscious, waiting for the right conditions to sprout. Some will germinate immediately, changing how you see the world tomorrow. Others will lie dormant for years before suddenly breaking through into consciousness with insights you couldn't have received until you were ready. The mythological seeds are patient. They know how to wait. Feel how your breathing has become the wind through cosmic leaves, how your heartbeat has become the drum that carries shamans between worlds, how your blood circulation has become the sap that rises and falls with the seasons of consciousness. You are fully human and fully tree, fully finite and fully connected to the infinite, fully here in your particular life and fully there in the eternal forest where all world trees grow from the same root system. The night's journey completes itself by becoming a circle, by returning to where it began but at a different level, like climbing a spiral staircase and arriving at the same angular position but a floor higher. You are where you started, but you are not who you started as. The trees have initiated you into their mystery, not through teaching, but through participation. Not through explanation, but through experience. Not through concepts, but through direct transmission of their patient. Vertical wisdom. As you prepare to return fully to ordinary consciousness, to the horizontal world of daily life with its demands and distractions, its forgetting of the vertical dimension, carry with you this knowing. The world tree is always available, always accessible, always present in your spine, your breath, your heartbeat. You don't have to journey to find it. You simply have to remember that you are it, that you have always been it, that you will always be it, even when you forget, especially when you forget. The cosmic axis doesn't depend on your awareness of it to exist, but your awareness of it allows it to function more fully, more consciously, more creatively in your life. Every time you stand up straight, you're acknowledging the world tree. Every time you feel the connection between earth and sky, you're honoring it. Every time you recognize the sacred in the ordinary, you're watering its roots and feeding its leaves. And now, as the night completes its journey toward dawn, as your consciousness prepares to cross the threshold back into waking life, the trees offer their final blessing. They whisper in unison in a voice that is wind and wood and starlight and silence. You are the tree. The tree is you. There is no separation except in the illusion of surface appearances. Deep down, at the root level, all trees are one tree. All consciousness is one consciousness. All journeys are one journey that takes infinite forms. Remember this when you wake. Remember this when you walk. Remember this when you wonder if the cosmic truths you've touched tonight were real or just dream. They are both real and dream, both fact and metaphor, both outside and inside, both ancient and immediate. The whisper fades into the ambient sounds of your room returning, the ordinary world reasserting itself with its familiar noises and sensations. But something has changed, something subtle but fundamental. You have traveled the axis mundi and discovered it was your own spine. You have climbed the world tree and found it was your own nervous system. You have touched the cosmic center and realized it was your own heart. Sleep now carries you into different dreams, ordinary dreams that process the extraordinary journey you've taken. But even in these ordinary dreams, you might catch glimpses of cosmic branches, might feel the pulse of sap, the taste of starlight, might hear the whisper of leaves that remember when the universe was young and will remember when it is old. The trees are patient. They will wait for you to return. They know you will return, in dreams, in visions, in moments of sudden recognition when an ordinary tree reveals its cosmic nature. They know that once you've traveled the axis mundi, you can never truly leave it because it travels with you, as you, through you. And so the night completes itself. The story ends by beginning again. The circle closes while remaining open. You have journeyed far without moving, have climbed high without leaving the ground, have touched the eternal without abandoning time. This is the gift of the world trees, the blessing of the cosmic axis, the teaching of the patient, vertical, ever-growing connection between all that is below and all that is above, all that is within and all that is without, all that was and all that shall be. Rest now in this knowing. Let it settle into your bones like minerals into wood, transforming you slowly, patiently, thoroughly into something that bridges worlds, something that connects levels, something that stands at the center while reaching in all directions. You are becoming what you have always been, a living world tree, a conscious axis mundi, a bridge between earth and heaven that walks and breathes and dreams. The eternal forest holds you in its embrace as you dissolve into sleep, into the darkness that is not absence but presence of different kind, not ending but transformation, not loss but return to the source from which all trees grow, to which all trees return, in which all trees have their eternal being. And in that darkness, in that depth, in that silence that contains all sounds, the world trees continue their patient growing, their eternal reaching, their cosmic connecting, holding the universe together through the night and into whatever dawn will come, whatever worlds will be, whatever stories will be told by whatever beings gather in whatever forests to remember when the cosmos was held together by trees, by consciousness, by the endless reaching of life toward light, of matter toward meaning, of the many toward the one that expresses itself as many while remaining one. This is the final whisper, the last echo, the ultimate teaching that needs no words because it is encoded in the structure of existence itself. We are all branches of the same tree, all expressions of the same reaching, all participants in the same cosmic yearning for connection, for growth, for the patient transformation of potential into actual, of seed into forest, of sleeping into waking, of forgetting into remembering what we have always known in the depths of our tree consciousness, our vertical wisdom, our axis mundi awareness, that even now, even here, even in this ending that is a beginning, we are connected to everything through the invisible roots and branches of the cosmic tree that grows in the eternal forest of consciousness itself. The trees remember, the trees endure, the trees wait, and so do you.